to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader, and tonight we're going to focus on the efforts of Egypt to be de-escalating the situation and the tensions in the Middle East regarding the war raging between the United States and Israel and Iran, despite the negotiations that could have taken place in Islamabad in Pakistan, mediated of course by the Foreign Minister of Pakistan Mohammad Ishaq Dar, and in the attendance of the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who had conducted a phone call with the Egyptian counterpart Dr. Badr Abdulati for today, discussing the latest negotiations and how things will be panning out in the near future. And of course all of this is taking place according to the directives and the instructions of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati to be de-escalating the situation in the Middle East. However, we'll be starting straight away with the presidential activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that took place for today, as President al-Sisi met Minister of Defense and Military Production Ashraf Salim Zahir, the Presidential Advisor for the Urban Development Amir Sayyid Ahmed, the Presidential Advisor for the Financial Affairs Ahmed al-Shadhili, Chairman of the National Body for Management and the Investment Mahmoud Rizq, and the Chairman of the Egyptian Development Company. The meeting touched on the 4-year comprehensive development plan for El Galala city, during which the President was briefed on the pace of work at the developmental projects there. The meeting also reviewed the second phase of El Monte Galala project, where the President gave his approval for the general perception of the implementation of the project with the participation of the private sector. President al-Sisi urged the creation of touristic residential tours in the city along the Red Sea coast and the adjustment of As-Sukhna-Al-Za'farana highway leading to the city to avoid the traffic accidents in the area. In addition, the head of state instructed the establishment of a service marina comprising economic, medical and educational facilities, along with the floating marinas, to attract foreign investment companies to the region, turning it into an international commercial hub. The President further called for the establishment of an integrated residential area for the workers in the city, included the needed services. The city is the Egyptian maritime facade along the Red Sea shore, and its development is closely connected to the Egyptian Vision 2030, given its exceptional location, enabling the creation of an integrated global economic system, attracting investment and tourism, and providing thousands of job opportunities in this pivotal region. And regarding the developments that took place over the past 24 hours, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said that he followed up with the utmost concern the shooting incident that took place in the vicinity of the White House during the Correspondents' Dinner attended by the American President Donald Trump. The statement posted on his social media account, he said, firmly condemns the criminal act and reiterated the categorical rejection to all forms of the political violence and terrorism, which pose a great threat to the security and the stability of the societies. He also expressed relief at the safety of the President of the U.S., wishing him continued health and well-being. In the statement, the President said that he extends to the friendly nation of the United States well wishes for enduring security, stability and prosperity. Meanwhile, Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdulati conducted 2 phone calls with the Qatari and the Iranian counterparts, Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman and Abbas Araghchi. The calls tackled the U.S.-Iranian negotiations and the efforts to de-escalate the tensions in the region. Foreign Minister Abdulati stressed the importance of adhering to the negotiating track and intensifying the consultations among the concerned parties in order to ensure the sustainability of the ceasefire agreement and cementing calm to end the war. He asserted the necessity of full commitment to the path of the diplomatic solution. He said that dialogue represents the fundamental guarantee to avoid the region the risks of the expansion of conflicts. He asserted that establishing the foundations of regional security and stability in a sustainable manner requires respecting the sovereignty of states and taking into account the security concerns of the countries in the region, especially the Gulf states, as well as maintaining the security and the freedom of international navigation. And we will be heading to the first report of the daily debate for tonight, focusing on the Egyptian calls conducted by Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdulati with his counterparts from different parts of the globe to be de-escalating the situation in the Middle East and ending the war as soon as possible. We will be having more details in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdulati held series of telephone calls with regional and international counterparts as part of ongoing coordination efforts to contain rising tensions in the region and support diplomatic solutions. In a call with Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, the two sides discussed regional developments and efforts to de-escalate the tension. They reviewed ways to advance diplomatic track between the United States and Iran, expressing hope for a second round of negotiations that would help consolidate the ceasefire, reduce tensions, and create conditions for ending the current conflict. Both ministers emphasized that dialogue and negotiations remain the most effective means to resolve the crisis. Abdulati also stressed the importance of safeguarding freedom of international navigation and taking into account the security concerns of regional countries, particularly the Gulf Arab states. The two sides agreed to continue close coordination to support diplomatic efforts, reduce tensions, resume negotiations, and promote political solutions while avoiding military escalation. In a separate call, Abdulati spoke with Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Anita Anand, where they discussed ways to strengthen bilateral relations and exchanged views on key regional issues. Abdulati underscored the importance of enhancing economic and trade cooperation, highlighting opportunities to expand Canadian investments in Egypt, particularly in energy, agriculture, and water resources sectors. On regional developments, he reviewed Egypt's efforts to contain tensions and reiterated the importance of prioritizing diplomatic solutions. He affirmed Egypt's support for the ongoing negotiation track between the United States and Iran as a pathway to de-escalation and renewed political dialogue. Regarding the Palestinian issue, Abdulati stressed the importance of completing the second phase of the plan proposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. He highlighted the need for a national committee for the administration of Gaza Strip to begin operating from within Gaza, alongside the swift deployment of an international stabilization force to help support the transitional phase and enhance security conditions. He also reiterated Egypt's firm rejection and condemnation of ongoing Israeli violations in the West Bank. For her part, Ananda praised Egypt's active role in promoting regional stability and commended Cairo's efforts to contain crises and support peaceful resolutions. As part of his continued diplomatic outreach, Abdulati also held a call with Oman's foreign minister to discuss the rapidly evolving regional situation and coordinate efforts to reduce tensions. The two ministers exchanged views on developments in U.S.-Iran negotiations, stressing the importance of supporting diplomatic efforts to reach understandings that would reinforce ceasefire and conflict and promote stability in the region. They emphasized the need to prevent renewed military confrontations, maintain freedom of international navigation, and prioritize dialogue as the only viable path to lasting stability.
back. You're still watching the daily debate, and to be shedding more light on the recent developments in the region and in the Middle East, I'm honored to be having with me in the studio for tonight Major General Osama Kaber, the advisor at the Command and Staff College. Major General Osama, thank you very much for being with us tonight on the daily debate.
Thank you.
Anytime. Sure. First of all, how do you assess the current situation in terms of the negotiations between the United States and Iran that could have taken place in Pakistan for the past couple of days? However, the Iranian foreign minister, he left Islamabad without meeting the American officials. On the other hand, today the American President Donald Trump, he stated that Iran could give them a call if they wanted to negotiate.
Right, again, to describe this whole situation, you can call it like a sort of suspension up to now. We've been suspended for more than 20 days up to now because, as you understand, the two counterparts are not trying to get to a point of compromise in between, or maybe they cannot, maybe they are not able. You wouldn't be sure about this, but the thing in here is that till a couple of days ago, all the media were talking about there are no more negotiations could be taking place on table in between Iran and United States. However, that we heard today that Abbas Araghchi hit back again to Pakistan, and as you can see, he just called the Egyptian political leadership, and he's taking the open discussion with the president of Egypt, as well as conducting calls with the Mr. Badr al-Busaidi, foreign minister of Oman. So the thing in here is that the point is that Iran and United States of America, they kept in a hard situation. They are both hardliners now, you can say. From the Iranian side, they have 10 points that automatically that the Americans that refused, as well as the Americans have provided a paper of 15 points, and definitely the Iranians also refused that. The thing in here is that you have the mediators, and since you have the mediators, you need to consume on their efforts. See, the two counterparts, like maybe, are you comfortable now, both of you? We need to get to a point of that because both are harshing, and the whole world now is in simmering surface. So from my opinion, I would say the United States of America now is trying to seek much more route for more chances to get to a point of meeting with the, or merge or converge points with the Iranians. I would say the Americans have nothing more to do militarily. Yes, they may strike again, but most likely they might not be able to achieve the objectives again, which that cost money, cost a problem within media, cost a problem within the interior of the United States of America. And the Iranians, it seems, that a little bit ready to rebel back again, this aggression if it happened, and they have been losing for 50 years, so doesn't harm them like too much if they lose a little bit. How about some other couple of days harshing that, so we can change the equal or the equation of stability within the Middle East. Trump, he might be seeking for that, and I would say the upcoming couple of days will be decisive. So let's wait and watch that, what will happen.
Yes, Major General Osama Kaber mentioned that there was a 20-day suspension in terms of the negotiations between the United States and Iran. But after the 20-day suspension that we have seen, and as he mentioned, we could be seeing what will be happening in the next couple of days as well. Do you believe that there will be an escalation, a return to the military operations from both sides once again, or a de-escalation and finding an extension once again to the ceasefires and heading to a permanent ceasefire?
Right. If you will go for choice number one, as you said, is that escalation of the situation, start to launch or wage another war. That might be taking place. It's almost like 50-50. But the thing in here is that the Iranians wouldn't start that militarily, never. From my point of view, the Americans will do it. But the thing is that, are the Americans pretty much able and adequate enough to conduct and achieve their objectives if they re-hit or they strike again on Iran? I'm not sure about that, because as you spoke about that maybe something like a couple of weeks ago, there is what we called the point of culmination. Within the military operation, there is what we so-called the point of culmination, which means that the attacker or even the defender have reached the peak of the military operation. And I mean here that they have used all the high power and high fire of weapons they can use ultimately to achieve the objective. So the Americans did that. So if you cross that point of culmination, you start lose. This is in the military. This is in the strategy of the military operations. So the Americans start losing after they have reached that point, because if you remember that on day 32 or 33, they have started losing some aircrafts, and they call it the aircraft slaughterhouse, and you have something like different types, seven aircrafts, like 3 or 4 of them out of 15 and 80-10 and 2 Hercules plus some other choppers from the UH-60 that they call the Black Hawk. So you know why? Because they have crossed the point of culmination. From my perception, the Iranians, they didn't reach the point of culmination up to now as being a defender, because this point is for both sides. So that's why if another choice like to restrike on again, to wage a war against Iran again, so it's not for the sake or the benefits for the Americans, but could be much more even beneficial to the Iranians. If they went to the other channel road that we're speaking about diplomacy now, getting to the table and start making some open discussions, it might help. So there is a question now, Mr. Ahmed, we can put on the table. Would Trump accept a deal like the deal of 2015? The one he
always criticized
it by himself.
Yes.
I mean, maybe this is what the Iranians are seeking for. To drag the United States president to accept a deal that, okay, let's done with it, and it's almost the same deal, or 80%.
But he keeps saying that this was a mistake by his predecessor Barack Obama.
You cannot count on that, because the contradictions and the paradoxes within the Trumpian speech every time, it's like between a confusion.
Every day.
So you need to wait. But that's what I'm thinking about. So the Iranians may be trying, because they have the strategic patience and the rugged patience. They have this sort of creed they have. So maybe they are trying to drag the man again for the deal of 2015. It was a good deal, by the way. It will be observed by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Yes. So both choices are there, and militarily the United States will lose much more and more.
On the diplomatic front, because we have seen some maneuvers by the American side and the Iranian side as well for yesterday, for the past couple of days, and maybe for today and tomorrow, the movements of the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi to be leaving Pakistan without meeting the American officials, to be heading for Oman to Muscat, and then he could be heading for Russia to Moscow. There were some statements by Iranian sources that he could be meeting his counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Russia. How do you see these movements? What do they say?
Yeah, this what do you call it, the shuttle diplomacy. Yeah, it's a sort of, it's not like a strategic deception. It's sort of that the way he's dealing now, because he wants to drag the mindset, the American mindset, to what this man is doing. Why is he moving this way? And what did he make with the Egyptians? What did he talk about with the Omanis? Now we're speaking about Sergei Lavrov in Russia. Russia now, that's a different point. That's a player that the Americans would like to be in the match, to come in the match, like within, even at least for the meantime, because you understand the situation of Russia. Maybe you would find Abbas Araghchi talking with the Chinese.
Yes.
That's what we call like the cleverness of the diplomatic. The man is a clever. He's a good man. He's a highly qualified diplomatic character. It seems he's actually complaining that the negotiators from the U.S. part are not efficient enough or competent enough to go through negotiation. And he was talking about Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and man, he said we kept telling them for a couple of hours the difference in between the nuclear reactor and some other thing in the laboratories, and they couldn't understand that. So why did they send them? And that's a good question too, because you know why Marco Rubio, the man, it seems that Trump is depriving Marco Rubio as Prime Minister, as well as Secretary of State, and the other guy, John Ratcliffe, Director of CIA. These are the two main pillars supposed to be within every negotiations, and they never move. This is very strange, by the way. And he sent Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and every time they would fail. So the Iranians are trying to conduct such, what to be called, great-scale maneuverability, and trying to distract the United States of America. And once they said, okay, here are the papers, because Trump said, I'll give them the time for opening ceasefire period of time till they come with a good proposal. Maybe he's trying to do that, from my perception. And the man is clever, or actually is. That's it.
For the past 24 hours, we have seen, I wouldn't say an assassination attempt, but an attempt to be attacking the American President Donald Trump and some American officials.
The vicinity of the White House.
Yes.
Right.
How do you see this would-be attack, or could have been an attack against the American president? Do you think that it was motivated by the war against Iran or some domestic issues?
Up to now, I'm pretty much astonished. Why didn't Donald Trump accuse the Iranians to try to conduct such an action against him? Because now, that's another good question. Thank you very much for that. When you look to Donald Trump as being elected for the presidency of the United States, and now he's the president of the United States, almost in the duration of 1 year, he'd been under 2 attempts of shootout fire. One of them have hit the ear, maybe the right ear, if you remember that, when we were speaking some one of these states in his campaign. And the second one, maybe he even didn't pay attention from the beginning, but after like something like 30 seconds, he said, what's going on, because it seems like the man was a little bit away. That's a problem with the president, because whether the Iranians attempt or from the interior United States of America public opinion, some of them wouldn't like the man. They would say he would drag the United States all the way down. They would say we are losing our hegemony on the world, we are losing our money, we are losing our soldiers. It's a new Vietnam. He's trying to open the door for a new endless war. So he needs to review this. You grab this man, try to make a good interrogation with him. Don't start like to punish him quickly. See who's after him. And if you need to make some corrections or changes within your diplomacy and policy, why not? Because if you remember something like a month ago or maybe 5 weeks, when the protest like hit within 50 states, 8 million people went down the streets. That's a big, numerous, massive number.
Yes.
The states haven't witnessed something like that, I don't know since when. But that's a trajectory. That's a ringing bell. The administration needs to review what's going on within their interiors. So yeah, it's an attempt. I think the man got captured quickly. He was captured by the Secret Service, SS, and he's under interrogation now. And I would say, like within the very, very new upcoming hours, we will hear something about that. Specifically, that Trump likes to talk very much, like in every time.
This hit to the popularity of the American president, as you mentioned, could be leading him to a review of the current war between Iran and the United States and Israel in the Middle East in general. Do you think that this will be moving him even quicker to be ending the war? What happened yesterday?
No, I'm not optimistic about that, because the character of the Donald Trump, president of the U.S., is sort of like he's impulsive a little bit. He's funny, by the way, and he loves to talk. He doesn't like to be like to be intimidated by any media or something like that. So it's not easy to change his mind, because the decision about restrike Iran again, it seems that Israel is pretty much involved with him, and he's trying now to stabilize in between his own administration and the right-wing orchestrated government by Benjamin Netanyahu. He's trying to get to a saddle point. This is hard on him. I would say if the time goes back something like 3 months ago, Trump would think 3 times before going to hit Iran. Now he's trying to find himself a way out, to pull out of that with the dignity, magnanimity, with the picture of the United States as the hegemony on the world and the American paranoia. I would say it's not that easy, but for Trump, he would think, I'm advising, I'm not saying he would do that.
Yes.
Look, 2 shootouts within almost a year, this is not a custom for such a case like in the United States of America, not even in the world. 2 times against 1 president. That's a trajectory which is not very good, by the way.
It is a negative indicator. Today we have seen the phone calls conducted between Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati and his counterparts from Qatar, Mohammed bin Abdulrahman, and from Iran, Abbas Araghchi. How do you see those phone calls to be discussing what is happening in the region, and more specifically what happened over the past couple of days in terms of the negotiations that did not succeed once again?
Exactly. You know why? Because even though now we say that negotiations are taking place in Islamabad and Pakistan, but the other mediators are there too. First, it started with the 4 countries, I would say Oman, Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey. And suddenly we found that Mr. Ishaq Dar himself, under the supervision of Mr. Mohammed Shahbaz Sharif, are leading and conducting this channel road diplomacy channel road with the Americans and the Iranians. But the assistance of the ministers of the other countries are there too in Islamabad. They come back and pro from time to time. As I understand that for instance, Nazih Najjari, first assistant of Mr. Badr Abdulati, foreign minister, he's moving to. And that's why the telephone call in between Badr Abdulati and Badr Busaidi and Sheikh Mohammed Abdulrahman Al Thani, the foreign minister of Qatar, yes, they are trying to find a channel way. They're trying to assuage the situation here in the Middle East, are trying to put out the fire and to consume the time trying to convince the United States of America as well as the Iranians. That's a great diplomacy effort, by the way, been conducted by 4 or 5 countries within Africa, Asia, and Europe. We need to mention Turkey too, because these are all like 5 main players from time to time trying to contain the situation, making it not to blast in the face of everyone that would threaten the Middle East national security and as well as the Europeans. You understand Turkey is an adhesive country for Syria and what's happening there. So it's and as you start your speech today, you're talking to the screen when you said that there is a direction from the Egyptian political leadership to foreign minister to go through such a diplomacy channel route, a strong one, do whatever's supposed to be doing with your counterparts, as well as to contain that quickly, specifically that we are trying to consume that Donald Trump said, okay, it's like an open time till the Iranians will give a good, reasonable proposal that I accept. So in between the lines, the diplomats understand that very well. The man is given a chance. Even the United States of America tried to do something. From my perception, I would say that.
And speaking about the directives by the political leadership of Egypt and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, because we have seen President al-Sisi participating in the European Union informal summit in Cyprus and being received by the Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulidis, as well as the warm meetings that gathered President al-Sisi with the French President, for example. So how do you see the importance of Egypt stating its point of view regarding the latest developments in the region, and to be converging those points of view with the other counterparts from Europe, such as Germany? Friedrich Merz was there, the French President was there, Emmanuel Macron, and of course the Cypriot President as well.
Ursula von der Leyen, the High Commissioner of the European Union. That was a couple of days ago.
Yes, on Friday.
If you remember that, we talked about the Egyptian multilateral relations with the European Union. Did you speak about that before? Some of the European countries would say, why we didn't take Egypt as an unofficial member of the European Union now, because the multi-relations with them are getting much more stronger and stronger as the time goes by. And also there was Mr. Ahmed Shar, President of Syria, was there too, as well as Mr. Ayman Safadi of Jordan was there too. And the Europeans now, they have a big problem with the United States of America, as you understand. He asked them to raise up the NATO expenditures from the GDP from 2.5% up to 5%, and they refused that. Most of them refused that, starting with Spain at least. And secondly, he said no more reinforcement and providing efforts to to Ukraine, and Ukraine is the eastern gate for the European Union, so that would give them a little bit harshing. And third thing that he said, okay, Hormuz Strait is being locked by the Iranians. I don't have to do something with that. I have my own oil. You need to go for that strait and try to open it with them militarily, diplomatically, do whatever you want to do. They said, no, you didn't consult us within this war, so how can we just interfere suddenly? We don't know your plans. Where are you now? What are you doing when you pull out? So they refused, and the man got mad of them, and he said, our alliances from the European Union didn't take part with us, so we will see what will happen with them after the war. So it seems that the relations in between the U.S. as being the bigger state and country within the NATO alliance country, like the 32 countries of Europe, it's like a similar relation. It's not. It's in a case of unrest situation, and now they would seek for other countries they would give their trust and confidence in. Of course, Egypt comes at the first place, and of course Jordan, and they needed Syria too, because they would care for Turkey, and Turkey had their interest in Syria. So this is very important. So I would say they have negotiated like too many issues and subjects there. And the first thing was about what's happening in Iran. What about the substitutes or the alternatives for the lack of oil and gas? How can we deal with that? So Europe now is in a situation which is very critical, maybe since the last 50 years. And now you need to give a hand and to pull the ropes with strong countries within Africa and Asia too, in the trial for finding some very good resolutions to come up with, to see what will happen. Specifically, their relations with the United States of America is not in its prime. So,
and speaking about the statements of the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, she stated that Egypt and Jordan in specific, they are the main peace maintainers, the peace builders in the region, in the Middle East, especially after reaching a ceasefire between Hamas and the Israeli occupation forces in the Gaza Strip in 2025, and nowadays trying to be finding another ceasefire between Iran and the United States. How do you assess those statements coming at such a critical time as well?
I can understand Ursula von der Leyen. This woman is smart too. Listen, because unofficially it seems like Egypt always responsible for Gaza since 1948. So when you look at Jordan, they are always responsible for the West Bank. And this flammable area being surrounded by Egypt from the western side and Jordan from the southern side, where the two sectors locate. So they understand that we come at the first place, Egypt and Jordan, within the understanding and experience and all history in living the situation with the Palestinians. And the Palestinians' problem is the one which led to the ignition of the fire of the war in Iran, which led to the unrest situation for the whole world, specifically the European Union comes in the first place. So from here, Ursula von der Leyen is trying to expose her mindset to the Egyptian political leadership as well as to the foreign minister of Jordan, that we do trust in you, we understand that you can do it, you have the experience, you have the wisdom, and you are professionals, and we need to try to contain that. So they need to put out the fire first in that and start like the other phase within the peace process within Gaza Strip. Let's move to the West Bank, and out from here they can widen the circle actually to reach other scales and other geopolitical areas. And of course Ursula von der Leyen is pretty much worried, not like ever before, about what's happening in Hormuz Strait, because the oil prices have jumped like crazy in the European Union, 15%, maybe more up to now. So yeah, in between the lines, you can understand that. And now Egypt is like a superstar, a bright star. Jordan too, because if you can contain what's happening in Palestine, you can solve other problems. That's from my perception.
Yes, Major General Osama Kaber, the advisor at the Staff and Command College. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
It was my pleasure, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you for this.
Pleasure is all mine. And this brings us to the end of the daily debate for tonight. However, I will be leaving you with the latest presidential activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that took place over the past week, all wrapped up in the upcoming report. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received the Secretary General of the International Civil Aviation Organization, Mr. Juan Carlos Salazar. The meeting was also attended by the Minister of Civil Aviation, Dr. Sameh al-Hifni, and the Regional Director for the Middle East, Mr. Muhammad Rahma. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the State of Kuwait, Sheikh Jarrah Jaber Al-Ahmad Al-Sabah. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received Sultan of the Bahra Community Mufaddal Saifuddin along with his sons Prince Jafar al-Siddiq, Ahmed al-Din, Prince Taha Najmuddin and Prince Hussein Burhanuddin in the presence of the Sultan's representative in Cairo, Mr. Mufaddal Muhammad Hassan. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received the senior advisor to the U.S. President for Arab and African Affairs, Mr. Mas'ad Boulos. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received the President of the Republic of Finland, Alexander Stubb, as part of his official visit to Egypt. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received a phone call from the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Rob Jetten. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi held a phone call with the Prime Minister-elect of Hungary, Peter Magyar. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, laid a wreath at the Armed Forces Martyrs Memorial and the tomb of the late President Muhammad Anwar al-Sadat on the occasion of the 44th anniversary of Sinai liberation. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi headed to Cyprus to participate in a consultative meeting that brings together leaders of a number of Arab countries and the European states and institutions. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the President of the Republic of Cyprus, Nikos Christodoulidis. The meeting began with the signing by the two presidents of a joint declaration elevating relations between Egypt and Cyprus to the level of strategic partnership. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi delivered a speech on the occasion of the 44th anniversary of the liberation of Sinai. Via his Facebook page, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi wrote, "I extend my sincere greetings to the great people of Egypt on the occasion of the liberation of Sinai, drawing from the historic day the meaning of pride, determination and sacrifice. Sinai will always remain a symbol of resilience, a gateway to security and an oasis for development and construction. May Allah protect Egypt and grant it continued security and stability. Long live Egypt, long live Egypt, long live Egypt."